So, any Game of Thrones fans? Okay. So, any behind the wall folks and Wildling fans? Some, enough. Okay, we have a true Wildling today with us. First of all, he's a really mountain person. He knows the mountains of Iceland, so that made him the right person to be on the cast of Game of Thrones. He was not just staging in the corner. There is a scene where he's actually grabbing the Corin half hand when he's trying to fight Jon Snow. Does anyone know that? Okay, I'll tweet the link. Besides this, what Hjörtur does is place branding. He basically helps cities, territories, and countries do the branding that would bring them tourism, inward investment, and that would attract talent. Another thing that he is working on is city innovation. This means he would urge citizens to involve and engage in innovation projects that would actually be good for the environment they live in. He's also famous for another project. Well, it's a project. He bought last hamburger that was sold in Iceland and preserved it so you can actually watch this hamburger now. We'll tweet a link as well. 6 years after, I think, yes. Okay. He does all this through very powerful storytelling. Some of us got to know these days, and his business card basically says a storyteller. So give it up for Hjörtur Smárason.
Thank you. I have a mic. Hi. First of all, I want to say, what a fantastic event. You know, Vladimir, Diana, everyone, Natasha, you've done a fantastic job. It's been really inspiring to be here. Great speakers, great audience, beautiful country. So, I'm not going to talk about Game of Thrones. I'm not going to talk about that old cheeseburger that I never threw out. So I hope I don't disappoint anyone. I'm the second last speaker on the last day, so I promised Vanya that I wouldn't be boring. And I even promised to throw in a monster or two. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, where did it go? Did I press the wrong button? There it is. Cities. This is a city. We are seeing today, and actually we've been seeing that for the last 200 years, that people are increasingly moving to the cities. And now they are moving to the cities in a rate that we have never seen before. In the next 35 years, damn, there will be no cities, just darkness. There we go. In the next, I'll make sure I hold this right now. In the next 35 years, we are looking at 700 million moving to the cities in Africa alone. That means we need to build an entire New York City every 6 months. And this is just Africa. If we look at the entire world, we are talking about 3 times, more than 3 times that amount of people. 2.5 billion people that are moving into the cities. And this is a trend that has been going on for 200 years now. And it makes you think, you know, what is going to be left in the countryside? You know, are we looking at a brain drain that is just going to leave nothing? Absolutely nothing. So I come from an area myself. And what we see here is a map of Europe. And if you look up in the far left corner up there, that's Iceland. That's my home country. And if you look at Iceland and you look at the upper left corner there, that's where my village is. So it's pretty far away. It's just under the Arctic Circle. And this is me, the year 1989, and my boat. So it's a tiny little fishing village in a fjord, actually a bit similar like Kotor Bay. And we were like 400 people living in the village back then. In the following 15 years, until 2005, people just moved out and moved out, and until there were 105 inhabitants left. So about 75% had just vanished, moved out of the village. And people were getting desperate. You know, what are we going to do? You know, the shop was closing down. They were talking about closing down the school as well. And if they would close down the school, there was nothing left and everyone would leave. And people had feeling for the village, and they really wanted to try to turn this around. And the inhabitants were desperate. You know, we need jobs and we need to build something up. And you know, the government has to do something and bring us some jobs. So the solution that came up was this: oil refinery. You know, someone got the brilliant idea of building an oil refinery. This is the first monster I show you. You know, this is ridiculous idea. This is a classical governmental solution. Usually they don't do anything. If they do something at all, they build a monster, a huge investment, you know, for billions of dollars, usually where they can get some of those millions in their own pocket, creating jobs that nobody wants. You know, we were looking at 500 new jobs there in a village of 105. You know, who's going to fill those 500 jobs? Not the villagers. Not the Wildlings. We don't like oil refineries. Not the people that had moved away. It would probably be, you know, foreign workers from, I don't know, Poland or Ukraine or Philippines or somewhere. So it wouldn't make any sense. Besides, in that area, the only jobs that we had left were food production, tourism, and products made from wild plants on the mountains, all based on clean environment. And you can imagine putting a monster like that in a narrow valley in a fjord, you know, the air, it would be horrific, absolutely horrific. So every year in February, we would come together, you know, when the sun came up for the first time in the year. Because we are so far north that for over 2 months we can't see the sun. So in February, when the sun comes above the mountains and reaches the village, we throw a party and everyone comes together and eats pancakes. And the people that had moved away to the capital, they kept that tradition. So every February we would meet up and we would eat pancakes. And we started talking about, you know, we really need to do something and we need to start something. And one of the things that I did is I started a hiking festival because I love the mountains. So I started taking tourists over the mountains and telling them stories and magnificent stories in the area. And as you've heard today and yesterday, storytelling is key if you want to achieve something. And in the fjord, we have fantastic stories of Vikings. Vikings that sailed in here, Viking graves, Viking battles, Viking houses. And many believe these were just myths, you know, going man from man for 1,000 years. But in the last years, it has turned out, when we've been excavating some of those places, where there was supposed to be a Viking chief, there was a Viking chief with sword and everything in a boat. It was just magnificent. So we've been confirming the stories that they're actually true. And here I'm standing at the edge of a mountain where there's supposed to be a Viking grave. And there is something there. We haven't opened it yet, so there might be another dead Viking. But we had more stories in that fjord. This is the fjord where we have the most sea monsters in Iceland. In the last century, we have over 200 confirmed encounters with sea monsters, where people saw sea monsters in the fjord. So one of the guys, he was an expert in sea monsters, and someone came up with the idea of creating a sea monster museum. Fantastic idea. And we developed it a little further, and we decided to open up not a sea monster museum, because that's something that is in the past, but a sea monster institute, because the monsters are still there, and they are real, of course. And because they're real, we had to put up a sign. So when you drive over the mountain, you come down into this fjord in the middle of nowhere, at the end of the world, and you get to the sea, there's a sign by the road that says, "Beware, sea monsters." But of course. So when this project was ongoing, people were gathered from the capital, and they went back for a long weekend to work on this old house that we had for the museum, renovated the house, opened the museum, and there was some extra space, and 2 people, they decided, I'm going to move back, I'm going to take my job with me. And other people thinking, okay, I would love to move back too. You know, what can we do? You know, can we create something? And we realized that the people that had moved out were not a lost resource. They turned out to be the most valuable resource for the village. Because they had networks and they had connections and they had some drive and they had some money, so they could make things happen. One of the guys had opened up a fish farm in Norway and been very successful, so he decided to open up another one in the fjord. And that's now like 15 jobs or something like that. So some people moved back because of that. And so in the last 8 years, we've had growth of 100%. Not many people, we just passed 200 people, but still, growth of 100%. It's just, you know, this was a doomed village. It is possible, you know, if you manage to realize what potential is there, what stories you have, and you manage to activate the network that you have. Now, I was so lucky recently to be invited as a speaker at the Crowdsourcing Week Arctic Circle Summit. That was hosted by a very, very inspiring village in Lapland in northern Sweden called Wildlings. And Wildlings is in a similar situation as so many small villages that they were united with a large municipality. The shop closed down, the gas station closed down, the hotel closed down. The municipality wanted to close down the oldest part of the elementary school. And people were like, you know, we can't make this happen. We have to stop this. You know, people are moving out and because there's nothing here. So we need to do something. And what they did is they created cooperatives. They had very limited investments. So for the hotel, they had 110 families coming together, putting each 150 euros and buying the hotel. Then they put in 11,000 hours of work and renovated the hotel. And now they have this fantastic, beautiful hotel. Now you need tourists for hotels, so they opened up an ecotourism travel agency. And that ecotourism travel agency has been voted the third best ecotourism travel agency in the world. So they're doing a fantastic job. They opened up a private school. So all the kids went to that school, and now they're even getting kids from the neighboring villages to the school. So it's a really, really, really impressive work they've done there. But they're still lacking people to move back. They managed to say what they had, but they want to attract more people. So what do? We have a challenge. People live in the cities and they're not coming back. But they want to come back because the life in the city, though it is fascinating when you're young and you want to go for the universities and the dynamics and all the opportunities and meeting new people and hearing new ideas and being able to just, you know, be yourself and be free and all that, people start to feel a little stuck. You know, they have a job, they have a 9-to-5 job, they're stuck in commute for an hour and a half on the way to work and on the way back. And they're struggling because they work and work and work to have this tiny little apartment and to have this car they sit in, stuck in traffic all day. So there's this problem with work-life balance. And when you start having kids, people often think, you know, this wasn't my idea of having a kid, stuck in some city, you know, with no space and anything. And I imagine raising my kids in the countryside like I grew up or something like that. So, but they can't move. They would really love to move, but they can't because there are no jobs. And you don't really want to just be stuck in traffic for the rest of your life. That's rather pathetic. You want to go out and you want to be able to see blue sky and you want to be able to see green grass and you want your kids to be able to go outside and just go play and don't have to worry about them. And surveys show that 39%, this is from UK, 39% of urban dwellers want to move. They want to move out. They want to go to somewhere where there's more space. But the problem is always the need for jobs, you know. And what does the government do? Well, we just covered that. So you can't wait for the government to do anything. You can't wait for anyone else to come with an investment or save you or create your own jobs. We have to realize that we need to create our own jobs. We need to create our own economy. You need to follow your passion. You need to become the master of your own future. And I think that's what most of you are doing here. I mean, you got your startups, you're working on something that you really have a passion for, and that is excellent, and that's what I love. I really, really like the atmosphere that is here. And this is the trend that is really, really going throughout the world today. More and more people are choosing this way. They're going the startup way, and they want to be independent. And in the US, we have now about 35 million people that are working as independent people, freelancers. And the expectancy is that it will be 40% of the workforce by 2020. That is a huge change. That is a huge change in the way we work. And that opens up new opportunities. For independent workers, for remote workers, you know, it doesn't matter really where they are. They can be anywhere. And you know, you can live in one place and then you can go to the headquarters once a week or one day every other week or 1 week per month. And it actually turns out you're much more effective because you don't spend half of your day in silly meetings that have no meaning at all. You try to gather those meetings and you solve them at once, and you become more effective in the way you work. So co-working spaces are popping up, and they are very popular both for startups and independent workers. And we have seen growth of 100% year after year after year. You know, it's a relatively new phenomenon, but it's really, really growing fast. And it opens up fantastic opportunities. So we're setting up a project in Lapland around the village of Wildlings. We're connecting 8 different municipalities, helping them to connect and to help each other with their startups and with their innovation and using the resources that are available in the other villages. But not only that, we are connecting that cluster, which we can call it, it's a virtual cluster, we are connecting that to other cities in Sweden and to other cities in Scandinavia, to people that have some connections in Lapland, and to co-working spaces all around Europe. This is the network that we are expanding at Innovation Embassy. And it's not all about the geography. It's also about what you do. And there's this one very ambitious woman who has a plan. And she's going to open what's it called Spaceport Sweden. And it's supposed to be the first company in Europe that offers travel to space for tourists. And she is doing pretty well. It's really, really developing. So we contacted her and we decided to, you know, open up a co-working space that is related to this Spaceport Sweden for spin-off companies. You know, people that want to develop something and that can benefit from space travel, that can work on space innovation, space research, and not only that, they can be a hub for any company anywhere in the world that wants to work with that and wants to connect that. So we create a virtual space innovation cluster. So if there's a company in Montenegro or in Macedonia or wherever, it can connect to the cluster and connect to other people that are working on similar projects. And we have yet another project in the Balkans, which we're starting up. And I think I come from Iceland. And we have a certain mentality in Iceland that has been really good for the startup scene. You know, there's a lot of creativity. We're a nation that has been in survival mode for a very long time. And so we are risk takers and we are doers. And I get the feeling that the people in the Balkans are very similar. There's a similar vibe that I get. You're people that are willing to take risk. You're people that are willing to do something. You're people that are willing to really make things happen and not wait for someone else to do it. And you have some fantastic opportunities here because there are, first of all, there's a very little language barrier. Secondly, one of the most magical things that happens is in the mix. You know, when you mix ideas, when you mix people, when you mix backgrounds, when you mix different experiences, amazing things happen because you get new perspectives on things and you get new ideas, and that's how things really develop. And so you have a fantastic opportunity to do something really, really great here. And there's been talked a lot about Silicon Valley. You know, companies want to go to Silicon Valley, and I think that Silicon Valley is highly overrated. Of course, they have a lot of really fantastic things, but Silicon Valley is a really, really, really expensive place. You know, it's a fantastic network, but it's a really expensive place. And the risk is that you're going to die really fast, or you are going to be eaten up by VCs. So it's a very hard place to be in. And it's often very much better to be in a place like here, where there is much cheaper labor and you can run your business much cheaper and develop it, but build your network. That is the key. You know, you need to build your community. You need to build your tribe. And the winning idea is not the idea that is generated first. It's not even the best idea that is the winning idea. The winning idea is the idea that has the best team. That is absolutely essential. So you need to create your team. And you need to build your network. And this morning, we had Professor Pankai. Thank you. Something like that. And he was talking about the Montenegro diaspora. And this is really a resource you should use, because that's what we did in my village, even though it's a tiny little village. That's what we did to really change things. And you have a really powerful network around the world. You know, there's a lot of Montenegrins in Germany and in the US and different countries. And you should really connect to those and reach out to them. You should build your community. And when you build your community, you build it around the ideas and what you have in common. You know, when you share some story in common. And whether it's being Montenegrin, whether it's being from the Balkans, whether it's around the technology you're doing, around your passion. So it's not only about ethnicity or origin or anything like that. You know, that's one angle of it. It's one branch of it. But you also build it on the ideas and the passion that you have. You know, the technology you're working on, the solutions that you're working on. And you can really, really build a strong community. Because it's all about the community. And that's also what Marun was talking about earlier. You know, when you stop adding features and you start marketing, you need to build your community. And that's the first thing that you need to do. So start networking, find mentors, find investors. I mean, these can be good angel investors. They're not big VCs with $50 million, but they can get you far enough to really have a viable product out in the market. And it completely changes your position. So, again, I think it's fantastic to be here. I really love the spirit that you have. And I think the Balkans have, you know, the story of Balkans is really of conflict. But the young people that I've been meeting and I have been talking to, I get the feeling that they really want to change things. They really want to think differently. And they really want to think, you know, all that, you know, nationalistic bullshit that has been going on is a thing of the past. And the young people today think differently. And they think about, you know, we are creators, we are change makers, and we are doing something absolutely fantastic. So just keep on doing it and keep rock on. Thank you.
Thank you, Hjörtur. One question first. Have you heard any good stories in Montenegro yet? We suck at this, I know.
Yes, I have heard so many good stories, well, I think the best stories, in my opinion, that I've heard are the stories that were here on stage yesterday from a Swedish comedian and anti-politician.
Many of us agree. Okay, so one question, we've been talking about education yesterday a few times. How do you think we should educate on innovation? How do we make this innovation mindset in young people?
Well, I think all young people are born with that mindset. I think the goal is how not to destroy it. And we usually do that in school. We destroy it in school. But what we need to do is give kids a challenge where they learn, you know, an empowering challenge, where they learn that they can actually do something, where they can see results of what they're doing, where they can test something and try something themselves. So you give them a project, and it doesn't really matter what the project is, but it's a project where they see some results and they feel, wait a minute, you know, I can really change my environment. You know, I can change the things around me. And I think when you realize that you can really have an impact, you know, you just go out and if you feel that there's something that needs to be changed, you just change it. You know, you create a solution that solves the problem.
I mean, we've seen a great project on the hotel today that you've shown, and I want to mention this. Airbnb has rapidly been changing the way we travel and we experience the cities or other environments. I mean, there are also numbers that go along with this that they, you know, perfectly put on their website. can we use this phenomenon of Airbnb, and can we efficiently use it when we talk about city branding and tourism?
Can we use what for city branding and tourism? Sorry.
This complete phenomenon around Airbnb. I mean, I don't see how cities really use this in a way.
Well, it should be part of the local experience, because what Airbnb is offering is authenticity. And authenticity is one of the most popular products of tourism today. So that's what people are seeking when they go, because Airbnb is not necessarily cheaper than a hotel, but it's a completely different experience. And you feel much more like a local, and if it's feel closer to the community, and it's a stronger experience. So it should absolutely be something that enhances that experience of the brand of the city or the brand of the place.
Okay, shortly for the end, I mean, you've been here before, you've been to Boka Kotorska as well. How do you feel about innovation possibilities in crowdsourcing in Montenegro?
Well, the thing is, you are such a small country, and that is an asset. And it's very important that you see that as an asset and not as something that is keeping you back. Because what happens is, when you're in a small country, people become much more reachable. You know, you can reach out to, you know pretty much every other person. I come from such a small country myself, and it's so easy to connect to people that have been successful in business or that have influence in politics. So this is an asset, and it's really good to use when you're trying to build your community. And crowdsourcing or crowdfunding is all about building a community that really supports you.
Thank you.